Oh, shit.
That was disappointing.
The mics weren't on.
That's fine because you couldn't hear what I was doing anyway because it was such a quiet...
Because it was clearly disappointing.
Well, yes.
Happy Casual Wine Geek Wednesday.
Hey, it's Wednesday. I'm here. Amanda's here.
Hi, Brandon.
That's Amanda. I'm Brandon. We're the Casual Wine Geeks.
Suck it to me.
Suck it to me. God, we're terrible.
No, we are the best.
Well,
this is the best radio show on the internet.
I think we're pretty awesome.
Yeah. We're talking about sake today.
Yeah, which we discovered. Well, we didn't discover sake.
We discovered sake.
No, we didn't. The Chinese did quite a long time ago. Do you know what might be one of the world's oldest beverages?
Sake?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love sake.
Oh, we'll talk about it. I've got so much information.
Oh, good. And you brought bubbles to the party. We have sake bubbles. You're welcome. And we got them from not too far away in Granville Island in Vancouver, on our little Vancouver.
Yeah, when we were at the Vancouver International Wine Festival, Amanda, who had never been to Vancouver, BC, which is one of my favorite cities in the world.
Yep. Now I know why.
It's delightful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, flat.
Easy to walk.
People
are so nice.
Which we walked a lot.
And the food is so good.
Oh, yeah. We had great food. We had delicious food. So we were on Granville Island one day, and we were, which is similar, if you've been to Seattle, very similar to Pike Place Market. Shops, restaurants, arts and crafts.
Farmers market type things.
Gorgeous.
Music outside.
Beer.
On the
wine,
water.
all the whole nine yards. You take a little catamaran boat to get there,
little
cross the
water
harbor.
Taxi thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we're walking around, and we've been drinking wine all weekend long, and this was the second to last day we were in town.
Yeah.
Right? Because then we had double breakfast the next day.
The next day we left, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's the day before we left.
Because second breakfast includes poutine at 11 a.m.
So good. After first breakfast,
you know, like we do.
And we're walking through Granville Island.
And you were just like, I really want sushi. I really want sake. I really want something not wine, which I also...
And not beer, because we had beer too, because we were like, oh, I don't want wine anymore. I'm going to have beer.
Which we went to a pub, and the cute bartender was like, you are not the first person to say that to me. Are you here for the wine thing?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Can we please have a pint?
Yeah. Give me a pint.
A proper British pint, please and thank you.
Yep.
And we stumbled across this adorable, small, little craft sake house on Granville Island.
Osake.
And it turns out we're actually at the wine festival we were at, but we didn't go far enough down.
There's like a whole sake section. We didn't go.
And we talked to one of the sake guys, but he was from Oregon.
Yeah, it was Momakawa. Momakawa, yeah.
Yeah. So we're there, and they have tastings, and we were like, oh, this is...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You ask, and then the universe provides.
Because I was like, I want sake. I want something with a little bit less acid. Cheers. Something with a little bit of body. Something that's good. Something that's like an interesting flavor. That's not wine. That's not beer.
Right. I could talk into the microphone. Sorry about that.
It's okay. And we did the whole tasting, and you bought a sparkling sake.
Because I had never really... It texturally is not that bubbly.
No.
But...
It's got a little bit of bubble.
It's a little creamy. There's a little acid. It's kind of grassy. It's a little floral.
Yeah, it's got like a little bit of a lemongrass. It is really... We'll take pictures, but you can find this place on Granville Island in Vancouver.
Yeah, and what was interesting about this place that we went to, in talking to the gentleman who was also one of the sake makers there, he was really fun to chit chat with. We were
the only people there, so we got to totally pick his brain.
Oh, it was fascinating. A small little place. We had edamame.
Yeah, it was perfect.
And the sun was shining.
He had the door up, or the
sake was being poured.
It was a lovely afternoon.
It was a nice reprieve from people.
Yeah.
And what was interesting in talking to him, when they first started, they were importing their rice
from Japan.
And he was kind of like, oh, we weren't supposed to. It's kind of a no-no, because rice is more so than a lot of other things. The rice is really important, as well as the water is. Yeah. But it was interesting in talking to him, because he said that they manage and operate the only rice paddy in all of British Columbia.
Yeah. To make this sake.
And I will have everything up on the notes because I think it's really fascinating to talk about. Oh, yes, you can play that thing.
Yeah.
Pull those notes up. All
of our notes that he's talking about are on our Patreon page. You can get there through our website, casualwinegeeks.com. Sign up to be a Patreon member. You get access to all of our behind the scenes information, all the notes, all the research. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, every single person who is out there that supports us.
Yeah. So since 2009, they have been producing local rice. Now,
this producer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before
this, they had to import all of their rice, and they went through this whole. I have 13-page guiding principles for rice production in the Fraser Valley in BC.
That's amazing.
And it has to do with here's how we did germination trials. Here were our methods of field production, different varietals of rice that we're using, different types of irrigation. Are we flooding or dry landing? What types of fertilizers are we using? What's our nitrogen content? What is our method of, are we seeding or are we transplanting?
That is so crazy.
Are we doing plots left to open air? Or are we doing ones that are wrapped in a sheet of Reme fabric row cover that was placed over the transplanted seedlings directly after planting, tucking into the mud so that the plots are using wooden stakes and, leaving the fabric on for 6 weeks during this establishment period so that the plants are like happy and healthy. So it was really interesting to be able to talk to him about, we want to do this right. And we also want to be stewards of the land and making sure that our stuff is legit and that our rice is like the way it needs to be to produce a quality product.
I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I do too. So
I have a piggyback for this whole thing.
Go for it.
So we're talking about sake today, and most people associate this with Japan, Japanese food, sushi, and we found this little, great little place on Granville Island in BC. My fun fact is 90 to 95% of the sake that is made in the United States.
That does not shock me at all.
Really?
Nope.
I came across that and I was like, what?
I would say the number is a little high, but I would say, at least 60% would probably be made in the United States.
Yeah. The number I came across was 90 to 95%, which was, it seemed astronomical. But then I think about, we have all this land.
Yeah.
We have
we're not a collection of islands. I mean, we are. There are islands in the United States.
I'm an island unto myself.
Well, I'm an island in a stream. Dolly Parton raised me right. Hey.
But 90, let's take them the low end. 90% of the sake is made in the U.S. And we found this cute little place in BC, which is probably one of the only places that make sake in BC.
I think they are the only. I think he said they have the only rice paddy in all of BC.
That is crazy to me.
Collection of rice paddies. I don't know if it's broken up or whatnot, but
That's amazing.
They were, and it was fun to be able to talk to him about. I don't know, before I was doing research for this, I didn't know a lot about more than what I knew I liked. Oh, I like an
sake?
unfined, unfiltered, kind of gritty.
The Nagori style.
Because I like the texture. I didn't know that sparkling sake was even a thing.
Before I went to Granville Island, I didn't know that sparkling sake was a thing.
It is, and there are multiple ways to make it sparkling, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Because who did research? This
kid.
So, and it was really interesting to be able to sort of I've always wondered about this thing and I've always wondered about that thing, because we go somewhere and it's a $4 thing of sake and it's warm and it's terrible, but it's happy hour and that's what you get.
Well, because hot sake is terrible.
Is it though?
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, it is terrible.
Oh, I'm telling you that I did research that will prove you wrong.
I have little notes that says hot sake is inferior and that you should actually have it cold. Are you going to argue me?
I'm going to argue. I'm going to argue you.
Let's do it. Suck it to me.
You were waiting.
I was waiting.
You
I
were
was waiting for that moment. Yep.
So, American connoisseurs insist that sake should always be prepared cold and that it is only served warm to camouflage the imperfections of an inferior product. That is the stance that you are holding on to?
That was the statement I read on the internet, and the internet is always true.
That is wrong.
Okay, we're
on
wrong.
Many levels.
Suck it to me.
The Japanese, however, have been enjoying high quality warmed sake for generations.
Yeah, I believe that. I didn't have cold sake. I never had cold sake when I was in Japan.
You only had hot sake or warm.
And I've been there.
Oh, so you're saying
8
that
times.
in the States we only drink warm sake when it's crap?
Yes. Well, what I read on the internet was that warm sake was crap. Now, because I was waiting to like hit you with my pun of sake to me, I didn't express that I have been to Japan 8 times, and for extended periods of time. Every time I've been there, I've only had hot sake. I've never had cold sake. So they serve it warm or hot over there.
Okay, so in Manhattan, chef Mazaki Saito is a champion of the concept of warm sake. So he has 2 Michelin star restaurants.
So he knows a thing or two, is what you're saying.
And so he says that he likes to pair complex bites of Japanese delicacies alongside crafts of warm sake. And he says warm sake pairs best with rich, fatty foods. I'd recommend pairing it with like an otoro tuna or shirako or amberjack. Mm-hmm. They're all fatty and marbleized, which makes them able to withstand the strong taste of the sake and not get overshadowed by it. Now, while the combination is often met with skepticism by American diners, Japanese patrons hardly bat an eye. In their native land, the practice known as okansuru, I don't speak Japanese. I can count to 10 and that's about where it stops.
You did a very good job.
They enjoy more than 2,000 years worth of drinking warm sake. They've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
They have a precise term for sake served this way, which is kanzake.
Kanzake. Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh. As far as I know, I mean, so I don't know if we've talked about this on the show, but I spoke Japanese before I spoke English. I'm not Japanese. I have no Japanese heritage, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I spoke fluent Japanese before I spoke English.
Did you go to a hippy dippy Montessori school?
No, I had.
There's nothing wrong with Montessori schools. I mean that with nothing but love in my heart. Don't come at me.
This is the craziest story. So when I was a little kid, my parents really liked this Japanese restaurant around the corner from the house, and the owners of the Japanese restaurant's daughter was getting of the age where she was looking for a job. She was like 13 or 14 or 15 years old. I don't remember because I was tiny. And so they hired her as my babysitter, my nanny. I was only like 1 or 2 years old, just learning how to speak. And so my mom said she would come home from work and I would be singing Japanese songs, chanting Buddhist chants. Oh, no worry, Buddhist chant. Because my mom couldn't figure out what I was saying. So yeah, and I've been to Japan 8 times, and it takes me a little bit, but once I'm over there for a couple of days, I can speak Japanese and I can understand what's going on around me.
That's so fascinating.
It's in there. It's in like my brain.
Well,
I just can't access it.
And it's one of those like use it or lose it, right?
Right. And I don't have the opportunity over here to, I'm not immersed.
Right.
But I love Japan and I love sake.
I would like to go someday because it's such a rich food culture. I appreciate a place that has a rich food culture.
I love Tokyo.
Because what do I like to do when I travel? Eat and drink.
And drink, yeah. I love Tokyo. It's like any big city. You can get on the subway and it's set up like a wheel, like spokes on a wheel.
Right.
You can get anywhere and every stop is so different. It's a different neighborhood. It's a different food. It's a different, like the whole thing is just, it's just magical. I think Japan is a magical place. And I've never been anywhere else in the world 8 times. And that is a long ass flight. It's 12 hours from Seattle.
I've been to Portland 8 times.
Yeah.
Which is, one of the whitest cities in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't speak another language there.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They speak beer really well.
They speak weed language really well. Yeah.
Well,
I highly recommend going to Japan. It is, the taxi drivers wear white gloves. The people who come in and clean the subway at every stop wear white gloves. Like, it is a culture of honor. It is a culture of respect. It is the cleanest big city I have ever been to in my life.
Tokyo is huge.
And it's huge. And you could put your wallet and your purse on your table and leave for like 10 minutes and come back and that will be there.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yeah. And it's a big city. So obviously not every neighborhood is like that,
crime is going
right?
to happen regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But I love it. I love it.
We should go. There's a sake tasting room down in Pioneer Square.
Oh, is there?
We should go sometime.
Yeah, we should go.
Really cool. They've got videos of sake being made.
Wow.
We haven't been there in quite a while, at least not since we lived downtown. And we stumbled across it, and it was one of those like, oh, you get a flight and I'll get a different flight, and then we can try all the things. And it was fascinating to be able to talk to the guy about production, and I have all these questions and I don't know much about it because sake is such a different beverage than what I am educated in because my world is wine.
Yeah.
But
it's similar.
Closer to beer.
Yeah, closer to beer, but it is similar. Yeah. And Seattle has kind of a sordid history with
the Japanese.
Yes. It's not for a while there, it was not a good place for somebody from Japan to be living.
No.
No. But there's a lot of influence here. You know, we're so close to the ocean, being able to have fresh seafood for, sushi.
Right. And we're a huge port city, and that comes with a lot of positives, in my opinion. I think you are culturally better because you have more access to different types of people, and I think that makes you a better person.
Yeah.
Personally.
I mean, from my house to downtown, you ride the bus, you will hear 4 languages being spoken on the bus.
Yeah.
Before you get downtown, which is 15 minutes.
I have quite a lot of accounts down in the International District. Little Saigon, Chinatown,
Little Vietnam,
all over. And so it's really, I remember when I was in college the second time.
How many times have you been to college?
This is the 3rd time I'd been to college.
But you're done now.
But I'm graduated. I actually have a degree.
Okay.
Now.
3rd time's a charm.
Hey,
nice job.
You don't have to.
Don't make up your mind.
Don't make up your mind. Learn all the things.
Try all the things.
I definitely feel like I'm a more well-rounded person because I've tried to go to college 3 times. The first time was opera. I was an opera major. The second time was sign language interpreting, which was the longest program I was in because it is so intense.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't mean to diminish.
Hard. No. Interpreting is hard in general, and sign language is even more difficult.
It engages a different half of your brain.
Yeah.
It's not there's no written form, so you're not. It's fascinating, and we'll have to spend a whole day talking about it because this is a thing that I can hop on a soapbox about. But
we're putting that soapbox away.
One of the things I really loved about Seattle Central, where I was in the sign language program, is you would walk down the hallway and hear 7 different languages every day.
Yeah,
and I loved it.
I love it. I love Seattle for that, but it was not always like that. And to be able to have a sake tasting room, to be able to have some of the most amazing sushi just at the palms of our hands today.
Oh yeah,
that was not without struggle.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, there's also terrible sushi in this town.
There's terrible sushi in this town.
There's terrible ramen in this town.
And there's great sushi and great ramen.
Yeah, you just have to do the homework.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. Soapbox.
Putting it back under the table. So let's get back to this whole hot versus cold sake situation.
Yes.
So
the unfiltered, unfined Nagore sake
should not be warm.
Should not be worn ever.
So this chef says that the best sakes to drink warm or hot are the Junmai or Honjozo types. These sakes reveal a delicate, balanced flavor with spicy notes that are elevated by the heat. He's a very big fan of the brand Manzaraku.
I would have to see it.
Manzaraku, which recently arrived in the United States at his own sushi bar. He is a really big fan of matching it against karasumi, which is a salt fermented squid, as well as his melt in mouth presentation of ankimo, which is a monkfish liver. So if you have been...
Oh yeah, high fat monkfish liver.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
This is junmai, but junmai?
That's a junmai?
Yeah, both of these are, but the second one that we're tasting is not sparkling and it's not warm. It will be cold. We're tasting it cold. I can warm it, but that would take a while.
Nah, I don't think you need to. I think it's delicious by itself.
You just mentioned it, so I poured it because I think it's important to taste while you're...
that. While I'm flapping my gums.
Yeah. Cheers.
Oh, that's so good.
Out of our official, I don't have, which is crazy, I don't have a sake serving set. So we're we're tasting our sake today out of Alaska Airlines first class passenger champagne glasses.
Hey, because we're first class people.
Well, it's because Chaz used to live here, and so she'd bring them home for tasting glasses.
Thanks, Chaz.
Thanks, Chaz.
Miss your face. It was lovely to see you at the mimosa meet and greet.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about the mimosa meet and greet yet.
Well,
can we sidebar a little?
Sure.
That was amazing. Thank you all for coming out to the mimosa meet and greet.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you to the W Hotel.
They did
for hosting us.
An incredible job. We had 4 bottles of champagne. We had fruit.
They're
like, do you want juice? And I'm like, no. I don't. I want, because you have nice champagne. So we're going to drink champagne.
And we did.
It
was great. We hung out all day long with folk. Oh, it was so great.
We saw people that we hadn't seen in years.
Long time.
Yeah. People that I didn't expect would showed up. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah. It was a fun event. We'll do another one next year.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do something for fall. I don't know. Send us your ideas. We'll do something somewhere.
Or just stay tuned. And we'll do whatever the fuck we want.
It might be a last minute, like the episode comes out on Wednesday and we're going to tell you where we're going to be on Saturday from X to Y. And then you have to come and we'll have drinks with you.
Yep.
That would be fun too.
We'll get one round and then you're on your own. It's kind of the way it works.
Yeah. Although we had 4 bottles of champagne.
Well,
and I thought, yeah, 4 bottles of champagne, of course, but I didn't math well that day.
Math is hard.
Sometimes it is hard.
Second sidebar.
Yeah.
When I was at Seattle Central and they built a new building that ended up going to the math and sciences departments. Mm-hmm. I mean, for good reason, because they need space. Right. Labs take space.
Yeah, it's important.
Math is important.
Yeah.
They had just opened the building, and I think I had two classes in that building, and they didn't have the signs up in the elevator yet, and there was just a taped sign on the wall, so you didn't know like what floor was for what thing, because like biology was on 1 and physics was on 2 and all math was on 3 or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And so they had a sign saying biology was on 1, physics was on 2, and then it said math transcends all floors and levels, meaning that there are math classes on every floor.
Well played.
And I Alyssa, one of our Patreon folk, who's one of my best friends, I took a photo and sent it to her, and it's like our running joke about how math transcends all floors and levels, because there are classes on
it does. It's its own language.
Floor.
Yeah.
Oh God, math, math in college. Anyway, well, there's a whole. Let's get back to warm sake for a second.
Sure. So you tasted this, and this is usually served warm. What I just poured.
It can be.
It can.
It doesn't have to be.
It's usually this particular sake that we're tasting is usually served warm. The unfiltered sake is usually served cold. Now this, if I imagine it warm, I think I would prefer it cold.
This one specifically?
Yeah,
I agree with you. Well, so you can heat your sake up at home, and there's a whole proper heating ritual to do.
Yeah.
So even if you're not much of a fan. God, no.
Not the microwave.
In fact, get rid of your microwave.
Don't use your microwave.
Tinkering with do-it-yourself sake is very simple at home in terms of heating. Mm-hmm. So First and foremost, avoid anything with jinjo or janjinjo on the label, because those are exceedingly delicate styles that come from finely polished grains, offering a bouquet of natural aromas and flavors that best showcased at colder temperatures. Do not heat those up.
Don't heat them.
So if you're going to be heating, you need the proper tools.
Yeah.
A large pot is needed to heat the water. In the bath goes the tokuri, which is a traditional ceramic carafe used to hold the sake. When the surrounding water is boiling, the sake inside the carafe will get between about 114 to 122 degrees in 3 minutes.
Yeah, the ceramic ones. Yeah. So with the tiny little necks and the little teeny tiny pour spouts.
Yep. So you will then just remove it from the bath and you're ready to go.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. Or just don't.
Or don't heat it. Don't heat it any other way.
I mean, because I don't know about you, but I do not make my own monkfish liver at home. I'm going to leave that to professionals.
Yeah.
I'm going to go somewhere where it's going to be done the way it needs to be done, because my knife skills are abysmal.
First of all, if you're craving monkfish liver, you better spend the money to have it done correctly. Don't go to the cheapest place to have sushi and order monkfish liver. No, absolutely not. Like, this is not a blue plate special dish.
Nope. No, ma'am.
No. Don't
go somewhere for happy hour. Don't get it off a conveyor belt. Now,
I will not eat sushi off of a conveyor belt. Absolutely not. No.
I'm not above it.
I will take you somewhere else where it is fresh and it is the same price.
It is fresh. I get the ones at the conveyor belt that I watch them make and set on the conveyor belt. That one. Fresh. Handmade. Right in front of you. On a conveyor belt.
I have problems with this.
That's fine. You can have problems. Drink your juice. Anyway, so that was just one of the things I saw in terms of, like, not all warm sake is bad. Now, if you're getting it for $4 a carafe
at happy hour,
chances are it's not the best.
Yeah.
But you can say the same for the house wine. There's a reason that it's $3 a glass.
There's a reason why
go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, there's a reason why happy hour exists, right? It's to move product. They serve it at a price that they can get it out the door. It's not going to be a Dom Perignon glass of champagne. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's
and
not
if it is, you've been lied to.
Yeah, it's not. It's bottles that are half open, kegs that have been tapped, sake that hasn't moved. Like,
yeah.
Let's be real, folks.
Let's be real.
Let's be geeky, but also let's be real. Yeah.
Are you ready for some sake facts?
Suck it to me.
Stop it. Stop it.
I love this episode so much.
So sake has more in common with beer than wine. So though English-speaking countries often refer to sake as rice wine,
yep.
Not correct.
Not correct.
That's a misnomer. Mm-hmm. Rice wine is actually made from the fermentation of rice, while Western wines are made from the fermentation of grapes. Sidebar, just because you ferment something and make it boozy does not make it wine.
Wine is made from grapes.
The actual definition of wine is made from grapes. So, cider
is not wine.
Is not wine. Cranberry wine.
Not wine.
Is not wine.
Blackberry wine.
While delicious in certain southern states, not wine. I mean, I'm guessing it's delicious. I don't think you should. I just don't.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. However, sake, the process of making sake is much more like beer.
And it's because it's a brewing process that converts the starch to alcohol, similar to the way that beer is made, because you're not fermenting, you're converting.
Right.
Right. There's a whole, well, I mean, you are fermenting, but there's a whole
and also converting.
There's a different process.
Because of magical mold.
And so brewing process is a very arduous process.
Yes.
So sake rice is first stripped of protein and oils in what's called polishing, and it's then washed of debris and air dried. After being steamed, koji is kneaded into the rice by hand or by machines.
Koji is the magical mold.
And it's the mold that will help convert the rice starch to sugar. Do you also know that you can put koji on the outside of... You can use koji rice on the outside of steak to mimic air drying, like dry aging.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, so koji is the magical mold that makes sake not to be confused with kanji, which is
Like porridge, right?
no, the writing. Kanji is the writing.
What's the porridge?
I don't remember.
Kangi?
Maybe. I know that sugoi means wow and kawaii is cute. Like I can put things together, but I don't know all the words. Can you open this? Because I closed it and then I made a mistake. Yeah. Would you like some more?
Oh, yes, please. That glass. So we're talking about the koji, which is the mold that helps convert the starches into sugars, which will then turn into alcohol during the two-step fermentation process, which is shubo and mormoi. Mormoi.
M-O.
R-O-M-I.
M-O-R-O-M-I.
So the second fermentation stage lasts anywhere from 25 to 30 days, depending on the type of sake being made. And then during this time, the brewers will keep a close watch on, because they're called brewers, they're not called winemakers. Fun fact.
Yeah. Sake brewers, because it's more like beer than wine.
Right. So they're watching the batch day and night, adjusting temperatures and ingredients as needed. Finally, in the josho stage, the rice mash is pressed and the resulting sake is then bottled. So the brewing process is very much a communal process. So there was this documentary done called The Birth of Sake that actually played at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Did you see it?
I have not seen it. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm. What year did it come out?
Oh, I don't know. I have to look.
I'm going to write it down, though. I'm going to watch it.
The Birth of Sake.
The Birth of Sake.
Oh, you know what? In the notes that I have, there's a link.
The notes are posted on Patreon. You can get there at www.casualwinegeeks.com.
And so
It won at the Tribeca Film Festival.
I don't know if it won, but it was put out in 2015.
Oh, pretty recent. Which is in New York. It's actually a very big deal to have your film show at the Tribeca Film Festival.
You're a big deal at the Tribeca Film Festival. Wait, what?
The only reason I know that is because I've been doing research into film festivals.
Well, the filmmaker takes viewers behind the scenes of a 144-year-old brewery in northern Japan, which still uses manpower over machines.
Wow.
For a lot of the steps in the brewing process. And they spent half of a year, October through mid-April, living on site and away from family and friends to oversee the sake's creation around the clock. Now, we've talked about it being brewed.
Yeah.
So you have these brewmasters. The official title in Japan is a toji.
T-O-J-I.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the brewery's toji is not only responsible for the taste of the brew, but also for keeping his or her team in harmony during the long winter months of work and communal living. So the toji is like a parental figure for the team and will eventually mentor the next potential toji in an apprenticeship that can take decades. You were an apprentice for years.
And when we talked to the gentleman at Granville Island, he was an apprentice.
Yeah.
And we were like, how long have you been doing this? And he's like, 10 years.
Still doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
right.
it's and what's interesting is that the information is passed down orally and with hands-on training as opposed to schooling in books. So
yeah, it's very Japan culture is very traditional.
Well, I mean, it's different than people that we know who went to the Northwest Wine Academy
decided
and did
to be
the
a winemaker.
winemaking program.
Yep.
Versus I'm just going to go to a winery and say, hey, can you just bring me on as an apprentice and I'll do all the things and learn everything I can.
For 10, 15, 20 years or however long it takes.
Yeah. I mean, well, and partially because the world of wine is ever changing and no one is ever going to have all the knowledge because you physically can't.
Yeah. There's no way.
There's
no way.
It's you just can't. I don't know. I find it, I think it's
so fascinating.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. Well, so let's talk about this whole.
Can we go back?
Of course.
So the sake producer the Birth of Sake, this wine filmmaker, they went
His name is Eric Shirai.
They went to a producer that was 144 years old in Japan.
In northern Japan, the Yoshida Brewery in northern Japan.
Interesting. I ate at the last time I was in Japan, I got out of the city a little bit and ate at a place that was serving the same meal. There was no menu. Everybody gets the same thing.
It's like a prefix menu.
No, well, yeah. I mean, it would
like you show up and this is what you get tonight.
This is what you get tonight. This is the same thing as tomorrow. This is the same thing as like there is one thing that they serve and they serve that thing and that's it.
And it was probably amazing.
And it had served that thing for over 200 years. That restaurant has been there.
So cool.
You walk in, you give them your shoes, and you sit down on a tatami mat and they serve this meal that they've been serving over 200 years. And then you go and pay your bill to get your shoes back. They won't give you your shoes back unless you pay your bill.
That is brilliant.
It is amazing.
Now,
I was just like, what? That's so, it was incredible.
I
like
could
the whole experience
not
was
eat
incredible.
there.
Why?
Oh, I have stinky feet. I wouldn't want to give a stranger my shoes. I feel like I would be doing them a disservice.
I think it's a little bit different. And it I don't know. It was like tatami mat. Everybody's on tatami mats. There's tiny little tables. It's just like big benches, right? So you're sitting, say you have a party of 4, but the benches are like 15 people long.
But not a party of 5. Hey, Fox, when are you going to reboot Party of 5?
Hopefully never, because the original is the best.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, but there's like 4 benches. The benches were like 15 people long, and that's all that they could fit in the restaurant. And that's what they serve the same thing every night. And you go and you give them your shoes, and you like go up into your little things, and you sat saizen, and you on
was the food
mat.
just like amazing?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, and you have sake, like that is warm.
Probably for good reason.
Yeah. And these like big charcoal pots with the thing on the top, and then you have your little tiny fish on the top, and then all your little extras around. Chopsticks is very, very traditional. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It was amazing.
I want to go there.
Let's go. It's next to the Kuan Yin Temple. So if you were to take the subway to go to the Kuan Yin Temple, the restaurant is like right in that. It's like 3 blocks away.
Huh.
So you walk. Yeah.
I'm into it.
It's next to, they call it the Golden Poop. It's this giant sculpture. It's gold, and it looks like a great big pile of poop.
I don't need to see that.
But it's right on, it's next to the water, and then the Kuan Yin Temple, and then this particular restaurant. Yeah, anyway.
I'll just go to the restaurant. Maybe the temple.
Yeah, well, anyway, sidebar, but that's, so sake, I'm going to watch this movie because it's crazy to think about a restaurant serving the exact same thing, functioning in the exact same way for multiple generations.
Well,
right?
but you talk about producers in Burgundy.
That's true.
Oh, our family has owned this land since the 1300s.
Right.
I can't even tell you where my great-grandparents came from.
Wow.
Well, partially because my grandparents are Canadian.
Yeah.
Well, some of my grandparents are Canadian. And when they came to the States and my dad was born, it was like, we're Americans. That's all that's important now.
Yeah.
And so
this
I
is
feel
totally
like I lost out
topic,
on.
But it's very important. Yeah.
I feel like I lost out on a lot of my family's history because I don't know it, because no one wanted to talk about it. Maybe we're a bunch of mobsters. I don't know.
I think
we're
that's
Dutch Mafia.
Very, very, very common in America.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Like in Japan, culture is everything. In Ireland and in Sweden and in Iceland, like there is a culture in France, in Italy, like the places that we went, right? The culture is so ingrained in the beingness of the person, but America is so young, and I think there's so much that's lost when my family came, when your family came, they're like, we've given up our heritage. We're now in the melting pot. But as Americans, what are we, right? Yes, we're a melting pot, but we're less than 200 years old.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fascinating when you think
can
about
eat and drink in places that are older than the entire
country that you come from.
Right? Like, where do you actually come from?
For sure. I come from Eastern Washington.
Now I have a side of my family that is Native American, but when that side of my family was that the Native Americans in this country were treated awfully, and you didn't claim that you were Native American until after, right? Because obviously,
right.
Unless you're whatever.
Yeah. I got you. I'm with you on this journey.
And back to sake.
Well, it's interesting when in looking at some of the parallels of, here's this beverage that's been around since about 4,800 BC in China.
Much like wine.
And it wasn't until around 300 BC that sake moved over to Japan with the whole concept of wet rice cultivation.
Yeah.
So you started to see like the whole rice paddy movement.
And they make the rice patties in Bali in Indonesia are very famous. They're beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the 1300s, breweries were built that allowed for much larger production of sake, and the Industrial Revolution brought mechanics and
which was
machines,
like 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That started to do the work once that used to be done by people in the village. And in 1904, Japan created a research institute to study the best means of fermenting rice to make sake.
That's amazing to me.
It's interesting if you're looking at alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Sake has a higher alcohol content than either beer or wine.
Yeah. A little bit less than liquor, but you're like at 15 to 22% ish, right?
ABV, or alcohol by volume, which is legally has to be printed on every alcoholic beverage in the country, is typically between 3 and 9% for beer, and wine is between 7 and 16%, depending on is it Zinfandel?
Yeah.
Is
fudge
it
a little, like port and sherry are higher because they're fortified, and
Sake, however, can be upwards of 18 to 20%. Now the sparkling sake we're drinking is 13
and a half,
0.6,
13.5.
You're 13.5,
but like a sparkling wine or a champagne, it's not 13.5.
No, well,
it's like 12.
It depends on a lot
true.
Of things, right? Like it's not as controllable as people want to make it out to be.
But it's not pushing the limits of the 14% taxation level, right?
No.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting in the States as well. And I don't know if this is the same for sake, but if your wine is above a certain alcohol level, it gets taxed differently.
Yep.
Because it's considered a dessert wine.
Yep. For wine. I think it's different for sake.
And I think it's different for beer. Because if you have like an Imperial Russian Stout.
I think it's 9% or 8% for beer. If it's above I think beer has to be within a certain range. And then if it's above a certain percentage, then it has to be labeled something else. So
I'll have to go and ask my fancy beer friends from the pub I used to work at.
I know, right?
Because I was the kid who was like, oh, you're the wine kid. Everybody's going to come and ask you all the wine questions. Well, that's awesome. But
I want to ask the beer questions.
We're a beer bar.
Okay. Here's the other thing. Both of us, the sakes that we're drinking today, we got from Granville Island. Osake is where we got them. But we, put these in our bag and we crossed the border legally into the United States from Canada with these bottles.
That was such a terrible ride home.
That was a terrible ride. I will never do that again. However, the labeling laws for different countries are different than the United States. So the labels that we have on these bottles today, if it was imported into the States and sold,
they would have different labels.
They would have different labels on them. So I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to post it, but just understand that you probably won't find this in the States.
No, and they're also a really small production. I
don't think they have distribution. You'd have to actually go there.
And you should.
You should absolutely go there.
It's awesome.
Vancouver is affordable to go and visit, and you
can
walk
poutine,
everywhere.
drink some sake.
Yeah. Stay in a hotel. We stayed in a nice hotel. It was $100 a night.
And it was in the middle of everything. Everything was really, really accessible.
We were right between the convention center and the water taxi and Davie Street, and we're like right in the center of
we were a couple blocks north of Robson, which is a couple blocks north of Davie, which is where all the homos hang out. And the best poutine in the city is located.
La Belle
Patate.
Oh my God.
Where they
do beer pairings with their poutine.
And we were the first people to walk in there at 11 a.m.
Yep. When they open.
Like, can you give us a minute? Like, we just unlocked the doors. Like, take your time.
Take your time.
We're fine.
We're here for second breakfast. We're okay.
All you can eat poutine
For what, $14?
Oh, it was like 19. I mean 19 Canadian.
Yeah, 19 Canadian, which could be 25 US very soon.
Those cheese curds, that gravy.
It was you went to the bathroom and you could see in the kitchen and everything is fresh. Everything is
you
fresh.
couldn't see into the kitchen from the bathroom. You just saw the kitchen walking
as you
to
walked,
the bathroom.
Yeah, as you walked down the hallway, you could see clarity.
It's important.
It's important.
Well, did you know that it's kind of rude to pour your own glass of sake?
Is it really?
Some say that serving yourself suggests that you don't trust your host to take care of you, but it is more about sake's drinking focus of friendship. Loved ones use sake to toast weddings, the new year, and other celebrations. So pouring one for a friend and letting them do the same to you is meant to be an act of bonding.
It's very much like tea in Japan.
I was on a date once with someone who is not currently married to me. This was much
when you were a
earlier before
puppy,
a wee baby gay. And we went to have sushi and at Nijo, down close to downtown. And he was really shocked that I poured him tea before I poured myself.
What?
And it was interesting.
Did you go to like a tea house?
No, we were just at Nijo.
I don't know if I've ever been there.
Oh, just like good local little sushi spot.
Oh, sushi.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
And he kind of looked at me and he was a little like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well,
I'm pouring you tea.
Mama didn't raise no fool. You open the door for people and you pour for them because it's a sign of respect.
It's a sign of respect, and it's absolutely, and yeah.
It's like when I'm pouring wine at my house, I always pour someone else's wine first before me. Right, because like you are more important than I am.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't go that far, but I would lean more towards like I'm honoring you. You're a guest in my home.
Right, which is why like everyone else is served before I am served in my own home. When you're hosting. When I'm hosting.
Yeah.
You are more important than I am. You are the guest. You are in a space of honor. You are
regaled.
Yeah.
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 You're
Anyway.
a queen when you come into my home.
Well, depends on a lot of things. Maybe you're a princess.
Maybe.
Well, so in maybe going back to the thing that you mentioned earlier about the United States producing more sake than Japan, sake's popularity has actually gone down in Japan. And reflecting on a growing interest in Western culture since the 70s, Japanese drinkers have taken to beer, wine, whiskey, and sochu, which has made a very drastic impact on the sake industry. The Guardian actually once estimated that the Japanese public drinks about 1/3 of the sake they did 30 years ago. In the early 1900s, Japan boasted 4,600 sake breweries. Today, only about 1,000 remain.
You know, it's big. Japanese whiskey.
Yeah.
Japanese whiskey is like cult following whiskey.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah. If you're like a whiskey person, you can't get it there. Like you can't get it here. You have to go there. Like it is hard to get and it is very expensive. Mm-hmm. You have to be on waiting. Like it's crazy, but it's good. I mean, they have thousands of years of sake making behind them.
Yeah. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. And what is whiskey? It's just distilled beer, which.
No.
I mean.
No.
Give me a break. It's like cognac is distilled champagne, but for the layperson, give me a break. Give me a break.
I am going to strongly disagree with
if
all
you're
of that.
making sake, you have some sort of knowledge in a beer making process. Just like making whiskey, you have to understand how beer is made.
I'm gonna disagree in terms of you have to have knowledge of a beer making process because they're just different. We are drawing similarities as a Western culture, but they've been making sake longer than beer has been around.
I have a guest that we're going to bring in. I have one in my mind.
Okay.
About whiskey and beer and how it's similar to sake and Japanese whiskey.
I mean, but even when you said cognac is like champagne, like they're not
different.
They're not the same.
Right. Of course, they're not the same. They're definitely different, but you can like follow the progression of the grape and the process.
Yes.
Right? It's very similar following the progression of beer into whiskey, right?
No.
And yeah, it's similar into the just stick with me on the journey. Just stick with me on the journey. You got to stay with me on the journey. It's taking this process and understanding these principles and taking them to the next level, right? If you understand and you can make champagne, you're like, okay, I'm going to take this to the next level, and you can make cognac at the next level, right? Just like you understand the process of making beer, that process has to be in you, like into your core when you're making whiskey.
But they're totally different things.
You're killing me. You're killing me. You're socking it to me.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Japanese whiskey. It's delicious. It's hard to get. It's very expensive. And yeah, if like 3/4 of the sake makers are out of work in Japan, what are they making now? They're making whiskey for 3 times as much.
Hey, man, get that dollar.
Or
get that yen.
I
did think for a second, I was like, oh shit, she's going to ask me what monetary value they use in Japan.
Yen. Yeah. And it was like, last time I checked, it was like 80 yen to $1. Ooh, I'd have to look. The euro is great right now.
Well, unfortunately, I can't afford to go to Europe.
I just looked for trips to Europe for the fall, to Paris for a week, less than $1,000 for hotel and flight. I know. It's like, oh my god.
Heavy sigh.
Paris is always a good idea.
So is Tokyo.
So is Tokyo, absolutely.
And Tokyo is probably closer than Paris to Seattle.
No, farther away.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 12 hours on a flight.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Now, when I go to Tokyo, I like to stay in Shinjuku. And Shinjuku is like a major... it'd be like staying in the Capitol Hill area of Tokyo, kind of, right?
A little bit more LGBT friendly.
No, but it's not like down in the financial district of Tokyo. It's not in the
Gotcha.
It's like bars and fun things to do, and then 2 stops from Shinjuku is the Meiji Shrine. Harajuku is 2 stops. You know, like Gwen Stefani and Harajuku girls.
I'm choosing not to acknowledge that.
That's the name of the stop, is the Harajuku stop, but the Meiji Shrine is right there, and it's like the Central Park of Tokyo, and
okay. Let's go there.
Yeah, I go there every single time, and I always go for the drum ceremony. They do it twice a day at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. and you'll cry. Like,
probably.
I'm just saying, like, you'll cry. You go there, you stand there, and last time I was there, it was like 5 or 6 days into my trip, and I was standing in the temple, and the drum ceremony starts, and I start crying. And it goes through the whole thing, and the drum ceremony ends, and I'm like, dab, dab, dab on my eyeballs. I'm like crying just thinking about it. And this lovely Japanese man who was standing there for the whole ceremony asked if I was Shinto,
right.
like a Buddhist. And he asked in Japanese, and I responded, no, but this is so deeply moving. And and he smiled, and my Japanese is terrible. Like, I can
better than mine.
I can understand it way better than I speak it. 100 times better than I speak it. But he just smiled and laughed, and was just like, gave me the little bow, and then like shuffled off. So
that's so cool.
If you go, you have to go to the Meiji Shrine. You'll cry. Everybody will cry. Everybody cries.
That's so cool.
I cry because I cry over spilled wine. I cry if I get outside of like 4 to 7 on an emotional scale.
I'm just dropping caps and
you were
bottle
excited.
stoppers, and
it's okay. We'll stop it. We'll put things in its place.
You're going to ask me to open that again. I know it.
It's only on halfway. Oh yeah, because you're out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thanks, Brandon.
I've got some information that'll go up about sparkling sake.
Perfect.
Our friends that we met in Canada, the Sake Effects.
And that's on the Patreon page. And how do you get there?
www.casualwinegeeks.com.
Yep. and click on the link for the Patreon page. And if you sign up to be a Patreon member, you can have all of the notes, plus bonus episodes, videos, episodes that we actually haven't published.
Oh yeah, and if you sign up at a certain level, you get like the Casual Wine Geeks starter pack.
Yes, that's right, for free.
Well, I mean,
You're
paying for it, but
$5 per episode level sign up.
You get the starter pack.
The starter pack, which is full of awesome shit.
Yeah, and that's all.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for
Socking it to me.
Thanks for coming with us on this journey.
Sake is amazing.
Yeah, it's delicious. And you can find some good stuff out there. You just have to do a little bit of research, because just like wine, there's terrible sake. Just like beer, terrible sake.
But there's amazing sake. And I will try to post up some of my favorite labels.
Yeah, and we'll definitely put the photos of the stuff that we were drinking today up, because they came from our friends up in Vancouver. And if you're up there, take the train, take the bus,
take the little water taxi to go to Granville Island and go taste the sake, because they're cultivating it. It's very, buy local.
Well, and it's also really cool because it's like estate.
Yeah.
Like, think of it as like estate sake. Like, we grow our own, we make our own. We're not buying our rice we're not importing it anymore.
Nope. It's all
which is
done
cool.
right there.
Like, we're the only rice paddy in all of British Columbia.
And they're making sake.
And they're nice folks.
Really super nice folks. And they have a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
to
there were
snack on.
snacks, and we had already snacked. Mm-hmm. We just needed
sake.
Story of my life.
I just need sake.
Thanks for tuning in, and
always take 2 bottles to a party.
And sometimes one of those 2 bottles can be sake. Maybe it's bubbly sake.
Bubbles? Sake?
What's not to love?
Thank you.
What's not to love?
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.